Alright guys, welcome back to the channel for episode 2 on Project Sally, the 302 rebuild. So my dad's already got the cam installed, and he's got this sweet timing chain that he actually bought from me when I was working at a place called Central Coast Mustang in 2005. It's been new in the box ever since.
Yeah,
So,
it's from Australia.
yeah. So it's a super nice timing chain.
And I set it up. Okay, so Comp grinds all their cams 4 degrees advanced. So this is already going to have bottom end up the wazoo. So I put it in 2 degrees retarded.
This to help the top end or the bottom?
That helps the mid and top.
Oh, okay.
But because I figure this thing already has bottom end up the butt, so
Yeah. And so he's got one of the heads out so he can do a test for valve clearance. So I'll probably come over later and we'll film that, but I wanted to show you guys the heads. These things are super sweet. These are AFR 165s. So it's like a street head, and they're smog legal actually. But they're CNC ported, which is pretty cool. And these things are just really pretty. What size are these valves again? It's a 190 and a 170? 160. So these things are totally sweet.
flip it over.
And they're aluminum, so they're way lighter than the old. Man, these exhaust ports are huge.
And that's where the 302 suffers, is on the exhaust side. That's why I'm using this comp. It leans toward the exhaust.
Yeah, so the stock exhaust valves are a 148, right? I think they're a 148. 147 or
146.
146. They're tiny. So, and the intake's only 170 somethings, right?
178.
Yeah. So.
The P heads are.
Anyways, these things are totally sweet. So he's going to get the head marked up with a couple of push rods on one of the cylinders with some clay on top of the piston. Then he'll just kind of loosely bolt it down and then run the motor through. He's going to use old lifters for this because they're already pumped up with oil, and the new ones are still spongy. So anywho, we'll check back in after he's got it all put together. So, all right, so this head's torqued, right?
No, it's not torqued.
Oh, it's not torqued yet? Okay. So he already did the clay test, and I had plenty of room. So 193 thousandths, you said?
Yeah, the intakes.
On the intake side, so plenty of clearance. And the stock length push rod apparently worked out pretty well.
Yep. You can see the mark is right in the middle.
Oh, nice.
There's some blue dicom.
That worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So these need to get
even. It was a little bit to the forward or outboard, but when I torque the head down, that's going to shorten it.
so we
And make it better.
got the new Ford Racing lifters in there.
Yeah, those went in really tight.
Nice and fresh. And he's got to put these.
This goes to show how good Ford's cast iron blocks are, because there's like little or no wear in that block. You're supposed to have really good cast iron.
So you got to assemble these push rod guides in here.
Yeah, so you have to adjust them to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you get to. So the intake port, if you look way down in there, you'll see a little hole. If you get your finger down in there, might need a light.
Oh, I see it from this side, yeah.
Yeah, so there's.
Wow.
They drilled all the way through, so that's why I'm putting the Teflon seal on the threads. You also have to do that on the short lower head bolts.
Oh, interesting.
And I use the ARP assembly lube underneath the washers and on the threads. And apparently there's some discrepancy on the head torque. I used Ford is 65. Well, it's 65, and then the torque to yield, so I think it's another 90 degrees. But so I guess ARP, when they first came out, they said 65 foot-pounds, but it would appear that they were wrong, and they've revised their number. So, and the AFR heads say do 70 on the shorts and 75 on the longs. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. Just trying to make sure these.
So you're setting the guides up, and then once you torque the head, you can adjust the. Well, you're gonna probably have to readjust the rockers after you run it, right? Because the lifters are gonna pump up and.
Well, you're supposed to set them at 0, and then add a half a turn. That's what.
So that'll get you close, and then once you run it, you have to loosen them and readjust them. Do those have a torque spec on them? Those studs?
The studs do, yes. I'm going to torque them in a minute as soon as I get them all in and adjusted. 55 foot-pounds.
That's a lot. So these are ARP head bolts then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Sweet.
It's pretty close to the damn head. I'm going to push that one out a little bit. That's as far as it'll go.
Really, that's just to keep it, because it doesn't change into that way.
No.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's close on that side of the hole, yeah.
Yeah, but they said that was normal.
Oh, okay. Wow, that is really close. Interesting.
So mostly I'm just trying to get the tips lined up with the valve so they're not sitting cattywampus like this.
Oh, I see.
So, all right.
And the previous concerns about the valve covers not clearing are apparently.
That was a joke because they've cleared without even a gasket.
That's good news.
Even totally, with one valve all the way open.
And you check the one with the baffle in it?
That was even better because look at the baffle, it gets deeper.
Oh, interesting.
I used clay. You can see the marks of clay left.
Oh yeah, little clay mark.
They were pretty thick.
Huh, cool.
So and then the gasket's gonna go on there yet. So shoot.
Is that a rubber gasket?
It's one of those metal ones.
Oh, okay, the metal with the rubber around it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have some really thick cork ones. So I don't know why these really pretty letters that would have been left and right and everything, they want that face down. So that's stupid.
Interesting.
Okay, 2 more push rods.
This phenolic spacer was homemade, right? You made this?
No.
No, that was the one you purchased.
Did you give it to me for my birthday or something?
Oh, I might have.
I can't remember.
Good old GT40 manifold. Lower, anyways. Lower's a GT40.
Yeah. It looks like I didn't even port it much. Which is odd. I thought I did, but I think most of the porting was done in
Pretty.
the upper.
Sweet. Well, we'll check back when this is a long block. That's pretty much the process. So I'm gonna set up the push rod guides and then torque the heads down, torque the rocker studs, and then set up all the rockers on this side and then move to the other side. That is a nice timing chain, isn't it? That thing's sweet.
Oh yeah.
Billet.
Compared to
steel.
the stock one was all cast. It's cast iron.
What's crazy is the stock one still wasn't that loose, right?
No,
I
it
mean,
was-
pretty tight.
I was like, what? I figured that sucker'd be long
Yeah.
overdone.
She was still running pretty good.
That's what I told the machinist. I go, I didn't need to take this apart. It was still running, but once I got it apart, you could see the rings had the plasma part was missing in between and the top ring a little bit.
Well, sweet.
So.
Awesome. Alright, so I just want to show you guys the stock heads that my dad had ported that were on the car. Need a flashlight or something, but
Yeah, I've got one right here.
yeah. I want you to shine down that port for me. So, not terrible. Pretty good port job. These things are.
It added.
I don't know if you did any unshrouding or anything, but
I don't think you need to on these.
let me flip it
I did.
over real quick.
Bump out of here. It had a big smog bump.
Yeah, so those holes right there for the smog pump pumps air into the exhaust.
These are Ford Racing springs, steel retainers.
So quite a bit bigger ports than stock. The stock exhaust ports are tiny on these things. Yeah, so you had upgraded valve springs in it and retainers and stuff. Pretty good ahead if they were to get cleaned up, and probably a valve job and some guides. But we're gonna weigh them, see what the weight difference is. I'm gonna guess about 25 pounds per head more for these cast iron heads. They're pretty heavy, so let's see what we got here. So we just weighed the other head and the cast iron head, and the aluminum heads were 23 pounds lighter. So the iron heads were about 50 pounds. So these are 27-ish pounds each. They feel super light when you pick them up after you pick up that freaking boat anchor. Imagine what aluminum block would save you on this thing. So it's about a 50-pound reduction in weight. That's a decent amount of weight. You could put a tubular K-member in the car and drop another 30 or 40 pounds and have 100 pounds off the front of the car, and it'd be about, what, 3,100 pounds or so?
Yeah. No, I don't like how that feels.
So you got torque and sequence here. What's the first step? So you did 40 foot-pounds before.
Yeah, now I'm up with like 50 something.
So it's going in steps, and then you have to, there's a certain pattern you have to follow when you're torquing these down.
Work from the center out.
So you do the centers first, and then you go to the next pair, and then you go to the other side, do the next pair. So a little back and forth there. Alright guys, last video got super long, so we'll probably keep this one to just this footage for now, and we'll come back after we got a long block to look at. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one.